Living in Florida is about more than just gators, hurricanes, and housing. Let's talk. We're getting after that next. Hey everybody, my name's Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. If you're looking for a channel to tell you a little bit more about what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, this is the channel for you. Go ahead, subscribe, hit the little bell to make sure you're notified every time. And if you'd like to start your search in advance, go to our nextfloridahome.com or our mobile app, our Next Florida Home, and get started there. If you've got any questions that you just can't get answered through the videos, you've got to do what everybody else is doing. Call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. So in Florida, there's been a little bit of a pullback on some of the purchasing, and people are starting to ask, well, why aren't the homes selling? Why aren't they even being listed? And it comes down to more than economic concerns, but one of the biggest things that we're seeing is that homeowners have locked in some great rates from these past few years. I was one of them, so I understand completely, because the thought process right now of selling your home and locking in a new interest rate that's higher than what you currently have, it's not very appealing. But I think that's what makes the relocation aspect so different when we're looking at housing and why it's moving or why it's not moving. So when people move here, they need a house. It's not like they can choose to stay where they're at. So their choice then comes down to, are you going to rent for over $3,000 a month, or are you going to potentially try to get a mortgage for a little bit less? Could be as little as $2,000, $2,500. It really is going to depend on your credit, the rating. I know that just the other day I have an investor. Yes, he bought down the points a little bit, but investor rates are higher. And what Lenny did is he locked in 6%. He had to buy it down, but that is still a favorable rate for an investor property. And it's something that you can do on a primary even lower. But again, it's very conditional based upon credit scores, income, and a bunch of other things. So I can put you in touch with a lender that can walk you through all those steps. But that is what's going on with housing and why it might not be moving as fast as it once was. Let's do a little driver's education, because you know it's a favorite topic for me, right? Anyway, there is a way to get into traffic without just jumping into it. They're called merge lanes. Yeah, it's amazing how many people don't understand how they work. And it's almost as bad as four-way stops. It's almost as bad as riding in the left lane, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Anyway, use the merge lanes, get moving, then merge in. Don't sit and wait to cut across all the traffic because you need to get in the left turn lane. That's not the way we do it here. So have a little courage, step out there, get moving, and get the traffic flowing. Now, let's talk about the left lane issue that happens all the time. Guess what? A bill has been now sent to the Senate to get passed to start fining people for riding that left lane. So if you're somebody that loves to just aggravate people and sightsee from the left lane, you might want to pull out your wallet soon to pay for the fines. Yeah, it could happen as soon as January 1st of 2024 if this gets pushed through. And part of the reason is they want traffic to flow better. The left lane was always intended for passing traffic, or if you're about to turn. Not 3 miles back, you're not doing it then. Wait. Get a little closer to your destination, then you can use the lane. But for all you left lane lingerers, as I lovingly like to call you, you're going to have another challenge coming up in 2024. Since we're speaking of driving, let's just touch real quick. Rain in Florida is like snow up north, at least to drivers. It's crazy what happens. We just had this rainstorm the other day because we haven't had rain in such a long time. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute too. But what happened is there were probably 4 or 5 accidents straight out the gate in that morning. And it seemed like every time they were updating the news, another accident was reported. So people here do not know how to drive. It's like a slip and slide to many of them, and they just don't get it. So if you are somebody that's going to be commuting in the morning, check the news before you leave to see where the delays are, but prepare for the extra delays and the traffic that's going to come from these accidents. Plan ahead, give yourself a little extra time. Now, are you new to the area, Cape Coral? You can go to a site that we have here, the city site, capecoral.gov, and there is an app in there. It's the Cape Coral Quest, and this is put in there as a way for you to familiarize yourself with the city. There's different destinations to go to. If you take a picture and tag it with the tag that they're asking you to use, It'll get recorded with them. There's prizes you can win. You have to find certain clues at these destinations. So it lets you really get into the destinations and start to learn about them. And that way you'll be a little bit more knowledgeable when you have guests come into town and you want to show them around the city. Now, if you don't want to lose your full benefits for homestead, pay attention, because there's something that people are doing that can affect how much money you're getting on your homestead. There is apparently an issue with renting out part of your home to get income on it. If you're doing that, you very well could lose part of your homestead benefits. All the details aren't out yet, and as I get them, I will share them. But check with your CPA. Ask them, if I'm renting out part of my home, how is that going to affect my homestead exemption? Because if you're going to lose value doing that, make sure the money you're making on the rental is definitely to outweigh the benefit that you're getting from your homestead. Because people obviously they're jamming themselves into Florida. It's coming from everywhere. I saw a report the other day that New Yorkers are going to be leaving by the droves and they're coming to Florida. So I don't know what that looks like yet. I talked to a gentleman the other day up in Chicago, and I think this was Chris. We were having a conversation. He's saying the same thing's happening there. People are just getting the heck out of Chicago. He's one of them. So this is going to be a problem because we're jammed here already. Now, what's nice, season's ending. And when I say nice, it's not that I don't appreciate the snowbirds when they're here, because obviously the income that we get helps us. However, the traffic is terrible. I noticed the traffic lightening a little bit the other day, and I'm hoping that that's a trend moving forward. Because of the fact that we do look forward, just like we look forward to the weather being so nice in the winter, we look forward to there being less traffic in the summer. You know, it's a trade-off, obviously. We lose the income, but we gain the freedom to drive. Another thing, when we're talking about rentals, we want to also be looking at dock rentals, because people want to store their boat, right? There's this website called dockskipper.com, and it allows you to find available rentals for docks in the area. So if you don't want to do dry storage, if you don't have a lift yourself, if you don't want to leave it on a trailer and have to trailer your boat, maybe one of these available slips will be an option for you. It was reported the other day, Cape Coral is in the top 10 for overseas visitors. So if you're questioning whether or not people are still coming here, how busy it's going to be, am I going to have competition if I'm buying a home? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. That's just what it is. This is Florida. It's not changing. Everybody still wants to be here. It is literally vacation mode in your brain almost all the time. And yes, it's a little bit different when you're living here and working here, but guess what? The weekend comes every week. And that's your mini vacation. Get on the water, get to the beach, whatever you're going to do, enjoy this. Today's going to be a sunny day, about 90 degrees, and the waves are going to be low, so I'm getting out on the water. But speaking of the water, this is another thing. People don't go in the water that much unless you're on a sandbar where the water's very low. You can kind of see stuff going on around you. And the reasons behind it are, we've got things in the water that you really don't want to touch or get close to, in most cases. Sharks, stingrays, jellyfish. There's a new one, though, Goliath grouper. Yeah, I said grouper. They can grow massive. I think this article was talking about maybe 8 feet, 800 pounds, like just massive fish. But the other day, somebody was reeling in a stingray. This thing came up and gobbled it whole. So they are large at times, and yes, they could, I'd even wager to say they could probably swallow a small human if they're swimming out there too. So just another thing to think about when you're in the water. If you're somebody that doesn't want to contend with this stuff, don't get in. And that brings up mating season. The Florida Wildlife Commission basically talks about bats, bears, and gators being in the area. We have to coexist with them. This is their mating seasons. They're going to be a little more ornery. Stay away from the water with your small pets. Just keep your eyes open when you're near any kind of water or brush, because it's not just water they're in. They have to cut through the vegetation between trees and bushes and all that kind of stuff too. And you might have seen from one of my prior videos, they will literally rip through a fence. So it's one of those things that we have to contend with. There's more than just gators here. Even bobcats. We're getting a lot of reports of bobcats and coyotes as of late. But once again, we're ripping up their homes to put in our homes, and it's pushing them into the neighborhoods. So just be aware. This is mating season, so think springtime. Think about all the bunnies that go running around. We've got them everywhere right now. So that is something to keep your mind on as you're navigating our neighborhoods. Now, extreme drought is something we deal with in the winter time as well. We don't get a lot of rain, so what happens is things start to dry up, they start to look ugly, everything's all brown. Unless you're fortunate, maybe your yard gets a little more shading, don't try to overwater. They'll fine you for that too. But you get a watering schedule. Right now we're down to 1 day a week to water your lawn, and it's for about a 4-hour period. But they caution you all the time. It's very dry this time of year. As you heard, it's hot at 90 degrees, and then the winds kick up. When it's a windy day and you put it in those dry conditions, flames can spark up easily. So if you're a smoker, don't flick the butt out the window and let it do what it does. They're even talking about sparks off of lawnmowers and things like that can create these fires. So be careful when you're around a dry area, and make sure that you're not putting fires out there, even with grills and stuff like that. Don't be sitting in front of a fire, which I doubt anybody would this time of year because it's too dang hot anyway. But be conscious of all those things so that you aren't one of the problems when we talk about wildfires. Now, the Sarasota airport is putting in something that I've talked about before. People don't believe this is a thing in Florida, but we have lightning alarms. And the one that we have here in Lee County, it triggers when the closest lightning strike is 10 miles away, and it stays for up to 30 minutes from the last strike. Then they clear it. Sarasota Airport is going to be a 5-mile radius, and it's going to be 15 minutes to wave that one. It's most likely due to the fact that the flights are being delayed when this happens, or the people that are carting the stuff. You know, you have all the attendants out there that are putting the luggage in and everything. They can't be out there when these lightning storms come. So they bring them in. The 15 minutes is a better time frame than the 30. But there could be delays in the summertime with these new alarms going in at the Sarasota airport. All right, so that's a little bit about living in Florida is more than just gators, hurricanes, and housing. But we did touch on some of those topics. If you have any questions about other things about living in the area, check out one of these other videos. And if you've got a question that you just haven't heard the answer to yet, please do what everyone else does and reach out to me. You can call, text, or email because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.